Hey everybody, it's me, Albatross. I'm back with what I told you I was gonna bring, and whoa, it's a lot. Oh my goodness, it's a lot. So bear with me. Gonna try to. I had to make notes because it's a lot. It was a lot more than I thought it was gonna be. But anywho, let's get into this because it's interesting because the more I looked into this, and then with the current events going on lately, with the declassifications coming up, it's actually perfect timing, because the same guys that are all involved in this operation are the same ones that, they're involved in all of it, so, but they're all connected. It's a mess. It is a mess. It is a tangled mess between the assassinations, MK Ultra, the Majestic 12. They're all connected. It's one big fat mess. But here we go. So yeah, originally the CIA apparently began just as like a little specialized news report, just specifically to inform the president of things going on all over the world. That was its intended purpose. Sprang out of the OSS during World War II. Well, like not long after World War II, in 1946. The later part, no, or 47. So yeah, and then the OSS itself was only supposed to be temporary. It was only supposed to last during World War II, but then afterwards, they found a bunch of reasons to keep us all scared and hating on Russia enough to keep it in effect, essentially, and to keep us all in compliance with it, as you can see on the screen. And don't worry, I'll provide all the resources for all this in the description. And then we get to the origins of MK Ultra. And that's a lot more murkier than the origins of the CIA. It's a lot more murky. Because they say, like, a lot of them say that it began in 1953, but, according to those declassified documents we looked through and stuff that took place in Canada, that was, like, as early as the late 40s, so that doesn't really check. And then some documents say it ended in 63. Sometimes they say 73. It's weird how it just changes, but no one explains that 10-year discrepancy. No one explains it. They just, flow with it. Yeah, it's a mess, guys, because, like, the media is all involved in it. I looked up Project Mockingbird. The same guys, characters involved in that. It's, like, a big mess. And, they're all connected to each other. And it's unfortunate because the MK Ultra victims, never got justice. None of the major players in it ever got in trouble. The ones who were involved in all the assassinations, they never got in trouble. They all of them went to go and live their best lives and write books, rewrite history. Well, not if I have anything to say about it, We're going to try our best to set the record straight from here on out, because I think we're all sick of bullshit. Because the victims and survivors deserve better than this crap. They deserve so much better than this crap. Yeah, let's talk about the CIA director turnover rate for starters. Let's talk about that. Now, the longest acting director of a CIA thus far has been Alan Dulles from 1953 to 1961. So he would have been there pretty much the whole peak of MK Ultra, and he was there the longest. So, but there was so many more. And for example, the very first one, Sidney Sawyers, and the second one, Lieutenant General Hoyt Vanderberg, they're two of the 12 Majestic 12. And there is another one. Where is he? Oh, yeah, Roscoe Hillenkotter. In fact, Roscoe Hillenkotter was, like, I think the main of the MJ-12. So, like, the first 3 leaders of the CIA were part of Majestic 12. The very first 3 leaders of the CIA were part of the Majestic 12. For those of you who don't know the Majestic 12, they're the ones who made that agreement with the aliens, pretty much saying that they could abduct as many people as they wanted, and in return they get technology. So, that's according to conspiracy theorists. Who knows if any of that's true. But the dates are odd. The conception of the CIA and all, it's very odd. Very odd indeed. But anyways, if you want me to get into all those other declassified stuff like MJ-12 and Project Mockingbird, just let me know in the comments. But for right now, this is all I can handle, is this one operation. Okay. Here we go. Operation Midnight Climax. And, big shocker, the director in place of the CIA during this whole operation was Alan Dulé. He was also, just a little fun fact about him, he was part of the commission investigating the JFK assassination. But another little fun fact was that he was actually pushed out of office by JFK. So, it's weird how they would have him investigate a murder of someone who pushed him out of office. Odd, right? A little bit odd. Keep that in mind. But I don't even want to there's enough videos covering the JFK assassination, you know what I mean? You don't need me to cover it. Maybe I can cover the other ones, though. I don't know. Just let me know what you all think. These topics are a little draining, I'm not going to lie. They're very draining when you're talking about evil people like this. Okay, another player involved in the MK Ultra. In fact, he was the one who is credited with the creation of MK Ultra. And I talk about him a lot. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb. And this photo wasn't even approved of him until like 2018 or 2019, just so you know. Oh, but apparently the reason they gave him the nickname Poisoner in Chief is because apparently he came up with a lot of the CIA's poisons while he was in place. But yeah, he was, pretty evil. Like, and the wild part about him is, like, later in life, after he retired, like, he went on to, like, what he called a spiritual journey. Like, he went to India and all these places, and he would meditate, and he would do all this stuff. So, I guess narcissists have that luxury where they can just, like, self-improve without taking accountability for any of their actions. Must be nice. Must be nice that narcissists get to live that way. But let's look at some of the questions that were asked of him 2 years after all 3 committees took place that they still never got answered. They don't tell us who writes this to Dr. Gottlieb, but it comes from Washington, D.C. and his superiors. Dear Dr. Gottlieb, you are aware of the agency's efforts to investigate its past involvement with drugs, with emphasis on use of drugs on unwitting subjects. The director of CIA made a commitment to Congress to attempt to identify unwitting subjects and, if there was a possibility they had been harmed by the experience, to inform them of the CIA's involvement. Your oral offer to help in this effort is appreciated. Now that our investigation is nearly completed, we have formulated a few questions, answers to which may help fill voids in the final report. You were not sent a letter earlier, as the only questions we knew to ask you had already addressed in congressional testimony. Although the primary thrust of the investigation is to identify test subjects per the director's commitment, secondary efforts are to assess the possibility of harm by the specific drugs in the quantities used, and to flesh out the report with enough details of the safe house operations to lend credence to the report which is emerging. Whatever the fuck that means. Any help you can offer on the following is welcome. Like, that's vague. Like, what do they mean by to flesh out the report with enough details? Like, what do they, I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I'm clueless. I'm just reading a document. Okay, so here are the questions. 1. What drugs were used / tested by George White and Ira Feldman? And in what dosages? In view of the tiny amounts required of a substance like LSD, how was the drug packaged such that the amount delivered was known with any degree of certainty? Good question, because everyone weighs a different amount. Were you weighing people, like, asking about their health history? Like, like, how'd that work? I don't know if they ever get an answer. They don't say. 2. What, if any, test follow-up was practiced? Well, I can already answer that. Ira answered that for you guys. Was there an effort to determine the effect, if any, on the health of the subjects? Was there an effort to determine what the test subjects attributed their peculiar symptoms? And I'll give you guys a spoiler because I've done a video on this already. But Ira Feldman already tells us that no, they didn't do any follow-ups with their subjects. At least not with Ira or George's. At least not with this operation that we're talking about. Operation Midnight Climax. Nope, they would just drug people and they would do no follow-up. We'll talk about more of that in a minute. 3. How did White transmit the results of the test to you? Were they typed or handwritten? Did they contain names of the subjects? Did all reports come through White, or did Feldman report directly? Did anyone else report on drug tests? How were tests in New York, 1960s, if any, reported? Who in CIA had access to those reports? If unwitting testing was not intended as the purpose of procuring the safe houses through the auspices of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, what was the rationale for attaining the safe houses? So basically, these are questions that, after 3 committees, they've had 3 of them at this point. This is 1979, from like 1963 to 5-ish or something. They had the Church Committee, they had the Rockefeller Commission, and then they had the one in 1977, 2 years before this. They still don't have any of these questions answered. Ain't that weird? And the only reason they're asking about this one is because the documents were leaked. Or they forgot to throw them away. Okay. 4. What was the primary purpose of the unwitting testing? To see if someone's behavior could be subtly sabotaged as an aid to interrogation a la White's OSS New York experience? Huh. Well, being that they destroyed all the documents for the New York experiment, I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. I don't know what they mean because I thought they destroyed the New York Operation Midnight Climax documents. But anywho, who the fuck knows? They're probably just giving them a heads up on what they know. That's how these people work. That's what it sounds like. All right. 5. Oh, yeah, and also George White, the leader of Operation Midnight Climax, his diary leaked. So that was another thing. And they redact a lot of this. Next question. 5. White in his diary, 1960, occasionally refers to redacted or redacted, as well as to redacted, as though he were attempting to distinguish between 2 coexisting installations. Did redacted support a safe house, which was separate and distinct from redacted? Just to give you a little background, these safe houses were like, the places where the agents would like meet up and like, I'm guessing sit behind their 2-way mirrors and watch, what Ira says. See, whatever happens, happens, I guess, according in their words. Just wait. We're about to get into George and Ira in just a minute. They are some deplorable individuals. But anyway. 6. The term Midnight Climax is largely responsible for the brothel image of the safe houses. The term, huh? Okay. Can you shed any light on its origin? Quite frankly, to date, we have no evidence to support the brothel image. What? Oh, stop it. Stop it. Man, can you believe them? And this is after the 3 different committees. You know what? Let me know in the comments if you want me to read any of those 3 PDF reports that I have. In fact, if I can, I'm gonna link them in the comments too. Not the comments, the description. So if you guys want to read the actual transcripts to these actual investigations into this, you can go read them yourself. But it's a little bit more than just the term. Anywho, number 7. Could you hazard an estimate of the number of the tests performed by the Federal Bureau of Narcotics in the safe houses and the number conducted in bars and nightclubs, etc.? If the absolute numbers are a problem, can you estimate a percentage breakdown between the 2 groups? In what cities did the tests in the bars and nightclubs take place? That's another odd question because, according to the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, they had no knowledge of any of this. But, others say different. Number 8. Dr. Treckler procured a safe site in 1961, redacted through the FBN, Charles Siragusa. It appears that Feldman was denied the use of that apartment. He procured an apartment, redacted, in 1962. Was the latter apartment financed by the CIA? Tough question. Okay. And here we go. Here's where they give Dr. Gottlieb like an out. Here we go. I realize that some of these questions deal with details of little significance. What? Do you hear this crap? Of little significance and are very possibly not remembered after 20 plus years. Whatever you will do will be appreciated. Like, stop it, please. That you're just trying too hard to suck that. Never mind. Just trying a little bit too hard. I don't know what Mr. Gottlieb has on you all, but it now appears that all of the agency's files have been searched, that all drug-related material, which is subject to release, has been released. The investigation into the agency's drug research is now targeted for completion in June. Hopefully, this entire subject will soon be relegated to history. If I don't hear from you within a couple weeks, I'll give you a call. Yours truly, redacted. Yeah, so did that sound like an out to you guys? Sound like an out to me. Like, if you don't remember after 20 years, it's all insignificant anyway. It's no big deal. We just want to know how much you drugged and how much harm you caused, if you did any follow-up. Insignificant details. Yours truly. The shamelessness of these people is something else. Okay, and then this is Dr. Gottlieb's, right-hand man. He was the deputy director of Project MKUltra. And, and Rob Kennedy was the 3rd investigation. He really, gaslit his way out of all that. Let's read a newspaper clipping from that time. Dr. Robert Lashbrook, the deputy director of MKUltra, small white-haired man, enjoyed setting the senator straight about the CIA documents they were questioning him about. Just because a memo for the system stated something was no reason to take it seriously. They have something called boilerplate words to describe projects which they wish to conceal from themselves. It is a summary, he said merrily to the bewilderment of his audience. Accurate records were kept. Accurate files were maintained. What happened to the good stuff he did not say. All the information was destroyed, asked Kennedy. I'm assuming that was his tone. Dr. Lashbrook stepped back. "I wouldn't know," he said. Yep, this is the guy setting the foundation for the next 70 years of hell. These were the guys setting the foundation for it. Okay. Oh, yeah, I just wanted to briefly touch up on Admiral Stansfield Turner. He was the one during the third committee in 1997. 2 years before that, that questionnaire went to Gottlieb. He was the one in there saying, "Oh, we don't do this stuff anymore. You know, the CIA's history of human torture and experimentation is long past, guys. We're here to serve our nation now, from here on out." He really, was gung-ho about it. Like, every chance he fucking got, he said, "Oh, well, we don't do this anymore. This was a long, long time ago." Even though, according to some records, it happened as soon as 4 years before that time. But, such a long time ago. It's long behind us. Long, long behind us. But you see, these are where, like, huge conflicts of interest, come up. When you have, like, your own people investigating you and things like that. All this stuff happens and takes place. So it's really no surprise. But yeah, this was just a little clip from the transcript, the very beginning. It's like a 200-page transcript. It's long. I mean, if I were to read it, I would have to break it up into parts. It is a long transcript. But I don't know. Let me know. I'll just link it in the description if you guys want to read through it. It's long. It's a lot. Okay. But something... Oh, yeah, here we go. Admiral Stansfield Turner assures us, whenever he can, that he has driven evil out of the CIA. That could be, but what can he do about the silliness? The rich variety of twits retired from the company who filed past Senator Edward Kennedy's committee this week make you wonder. The Admiral's undertaking is mission impossible. Trying to make the CIA look good. Yeah, they're making fun of, like, some of these people. Yeah, because it is. I mean, it's not funny at all. It's just humorous that, like, they're just letting this blatant corruption play out. And, just letting it play it out. And they already had such a grip on everybody by then that nobody really cared. I mean, there's a lot of people... even from this time period, who've never heard of all this. It's weird. And this is after the big investigation, a couple days after, when he, Stansfield goes on his press tour. He goes on his press tour, assuring us that we need the CIA. We need them, And keep in mind, there probably never would have been an LSD culture if it wasn't for Dr. Sidney Gottlieb. Let's just all remember and, like, call it what it is. You know what I mean? The leader of MK Ultra. There probably wouldn't have even been LSD in the culture at all if it wasn't for him. I mean, if you want to thank him for it, you can. But, I mean, he didn't do any good for any of us. He set a horrible precedent. Wouldn't you agree? Especially the fact where he got away with it. Him and all of his cohorts. They all just walked free. They got to destroy records and everything and just got to walk away and live their best life. And here's one of them, George White. Oh, real piece of work. Here we go. The leader of Operation Midnight Climax. And I believe he was also the leader in the New York one, too, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But who knows? They destroyed the documents, so we'll never know. But yeah, listen to what he had to say. "I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was fun. Fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest. You know, him and his cohort, Ira, they really have do a really good job at putting their fucking foot in their mouths and saying the truth. These are the guys doing these experiments. Studying. To my knowledge, this guy, he worked for the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. He's not a scientist. And neither is Ira. They ain't no scientists. Dr. Gottlieb was supplying them their drugs, but he was not overseeing these projects. Let me show you. We'll go on. And George White used a pseudonym, Morgan Hall, and he rented a top-floor apartment in Telegraph Hill building in San Francisco, and he signed checks on that name, and he recruited his buddy Ira Feldman to, be undercover and be a hoodlum gangster and gather a bunch of prostitutes. While Feldman was, gathering the prostitutes and, whether they were willing or not, no one knows to this day, and, gather them up while George White was setting up the apartment with their one-way mirrors so they could watch and video record and study and do all the killing and lying and pillaging and raping they wanted. With budgeted by taxpayer money. Oh yeah, and apparently to the guys who didn't get to sit behind the mirrors, they wanted a piece of this action. So they actually had transmission the radio frequency out to the guys on the outside so they could listen for their amusement. Yeah. Sounded like a big, weird fetish operation to me. But, after all that, he retired from all that and went on to become the fire marshal of Stinson Beach before he died, 1975. So, yeah, he died before he could testify. Weird, huh? And, oh yeah, this is, apparently that they were being spied on by someone from Mr. Hoover. Big surprise. They were all spying on each other because they were all crooks and weird and shady and crooked and didn't trust each other. Big shock, big shock, big shock. Oh yeah, here's a victim of George White's. Recruiting a few prostitutes to establish a cover. That was a tongue twister a little bit. It's unclear how willing the sex workers were to drug unwilling participants for the government. White, however, cared little about a participant's willingness. Yeah, he let us know. After his advances were denied by local club singer Ruth Kelly, he drugged her with LSD just before she went up to perform on stage. Once again, to quote, "see what happens." That's something him and his buddy Ira Feldman say a lot. She made it through her performance and escaped to a hospital before the agent could intercept her. So they were going to try to stop her from going to the hospital after they had drugged her with LSD. These guys were just like rabid animals just running around, drugging people. Just because she said no to one of his advances. There was no ethics here. There was no science behind any of this. I don't even think they were going to try to hide it behind science. I think they were just going to hide this operation altogether. That's what I think. I don't think they meant for us to know all of this. Ira Feldman. Now, that is not a picture of Ira Feldman. That is on the right. That's not a picture of Ira Feldman. He must not be dead yet because there's no picture available for him. So, I put Danny DeVito there because he's referred to as the Penguin of the CIA. And he was George White's lackey. Did most of the dirty work, the criminal activity of the enterprise. And he had no problem admitting it, at his deposition until his lawyer stopped him. But he was sitting there admitting it like 3 times. Go watch that video, Wayne Ritchie versus the United States. You hear a lot about Ira in that video. As recently as 2009, they were avoiding culpability for all this. As recently as 2009, they were avoiding culpability for all of this. And I don't know if it's still, who knows if it's still, they're still trying. I hope that Wayne Ritchie does get justice. He deserves it. He's a veteran, he served in the military, and that was not right, what Ira did to him. So I hope he does get justice. Now, this is something a little weird and cryptic, but when Ira was being questioned, which committee was this? It was in one of the committees that they were doing, investigating MK Ultra. And he was kind of toying with them. He was like, he knew statutes of limitations had run. So he could, even though, I don't know if he knows that there is no statute of limitation for murder, but, whatever. I guess unless he didn't murder anybody, but I don't know. Maybe he didn't. It's weird that he wouldn't tell them what they needed to know, though. So, yeah, on questioning, Mr. Feldman stated he was now involved with investments. He traveled internationally. He mentioned several trips to South America, but also mentioned Europe. He indicated he was now earning more than ever. When asked what type of investments he was in, he replied, let's just say investments in lives. Yeah. They never questioned him further on that, though. Conclusion. Feldman knows more than he's admitted. Yeah, no shit. And even infers as much. His testimony is full of inferences that he knows much more, including a statement that if they really want to know, etc., I believe he agreed to meet with us just to learn what we were up to. So you let him. Events since the interview suggest that he may have lied to us about contacts to influence his testimony. When Redacted and I showed him our credentials, subsequent conversation demonstrated he thought Redacted was FBI rather than DEA. I phoned Ray Treckler about 1600, 30th of April, requesting an interview. When he agreed, I asked if he... I'm not sure what that 1600 means. I'm sorry. But anyway, when he agreed, I asked if he would mind if I brought one other man along. To his who, I responded only Redacted. Treckler responded, oh, Department of Justice, huh? I asked, oh, do you know him? No. Since Redacted is DEA, unknown to the Department of Justice, it seems probable that Feldman phoned Treckler after our interview. Investigators were Redacted, DEA, and Redacted, CIA, Redacted. So yeah, they pretty much informed Ira what they were up to. Willingly, it sounds like. Big fucking shocker there. Oh yeah, there's a little excerpt from a paper regarding the Wayne Ritchie lawsuit. And at the bottom, as you can see, him admitting, I drugged guys and involved in about 12 instances. Former federal narcotics agent Ira Feldman, who worked for the CIA project MK Ultra, told Ritchie's lawyer, I didn't do any follow-up. You just back up away, let them worry, like this nitwit Ritchie. So yeah, and then they denied Ritchie his justice. Based on the fact that since he had served in the military, he couldn't sue the government, which is such bullshit. And then, like, it was kind of like what they did to those people in Canada. It was like, because Canada was immune or something, so no one from Canada was allowed to sue the United States. It's a bunch of bullshit. They avoided culpability in all of this. None of the victims ever got compensated. They had to live with these, like, disabilities and ailments. Some of them weren't very lucky, you know what I mean? They were, like, messed up in the head for the rest of their lives. And they never got any compensation for it. But let me know if you want me to read the other stuff, the other projects and declassified articles. There's a lot more. There's a lot. And I'll just go ahead and link a lot of the in the description, the resources I've got. And you all can check them out. But just let me know. Anyways, have a good evening.